Hi everyone, this is Laura Galvis and Laura Rojas. We're gonna present you our project that is entitled Materials Design in the English Language to Children with Autism, Adaptation from Multiple Intelligences Perspective. We come from Universidad Distrital Francisco José de Caldas, so there we go.
Okay, so we're going to start by the introduction. So this research proposal is aimed at children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. We are going to address their functional educational needs by adapting materials, taking into account the theory of multiple intelligences, and additionally to considering the steps of the individual plan of reasonable adjustments. That plan is a project made here in Colombia, and this project gave us like a guidance in order to adapt the curriculum and the activities to children with educational needs. And at the end of our intervention, we plan to make a didactic unit that will contribute to the acquisition of the foreign language English. Now, the relevance of this project. So, I would like to start by saying that this project stems from the importance of including all children in the classroom, regardless the gender, the race, the religion, status, or diagnosis. So we believe that the education plays an important role in the classroom in order to create an environment safe for all children. So taking into account that this project will contribute to the TFL community because despite that the multiple intelligences theory is something that many people have been implemented in their classes, since our area is English teaching, we are proposing to work with other fields of knowledge such as math, biology, arts, music, among others. Additionally, this project I'm going to contribute to the inclusive education field, since we are contributing to the inclusion of the classroom, and we also believe that all children have abilities that must be potentiated. And finally, this is an interdisciplinary pedagogical alternative because since we are working from the multiple intelligences theory, teachers in training can see our project as a guidance and they can adapt it to their context.
Well, now talking about the diagnosis, this is important because we consider that this project will be very important in our Colombian society because 2.3% of the Colombian people has disabilities according to the Ministry of Health and Social Protection. So we are aware that here in Colombia we have like many policies regarding inclusive education, but we see that these policies don't include the whole people that has disabilities because they consider only some disabilities. So that's why we consider that as a need this project. In our pedagogical practicum, we were witnesses that the curriculum is like very general for these children, and we are aware that also we have to adapt the curriculum for each particularity of each children. So also we are aware that exist some institutions that has different curriculums because they have the autonomy to adapt the curriculum and they present good plans, but in our experience it was not good enough. So that's why we consider it as a need to create a didactic unit with different adaptations regarding the material, the curriculum, and so on, to cover the educational gap that exists in some institutions here in Bogota. So that's why we work since a perspective of adapt materials and multiple intelligences theory to potentiate different abilities of each children and to foster the acquisition of the English language learning.
Okay, so taking into account that Our research question is the following: how can the use of materials based on multiple intelligences help the acquisition of English as a foreign language to autistic children? So we want to inquiry in the multiple intelligences field, and additionally how this field can contribute to the acquisition of a foreign language to children with autism.
Then we have our hypothesis, that is, using adapted materials considering the theory of multiple intelligences will help students with autism acquire the English foreign language. So here we have like this statement, because we truly believe at the beginning of this intervention that this theory is like interdisciplinary, and this theory will give variety to the curriculum. So that's why we place this hypothesis at the beginning of our project.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about our constructs. So we base our literature review in three main aspects, which are autism, materials, and multiple intelligences. So talking about autism, we see how the term has been evolved through the time. Because at the very beginning it was considered that people with autism have kind of schizophrenia. However, with some investigations, psychologists realized that, well, this is developmental disorder with a neurobiological origin that gives very significant differences in the skills that are typically expected in boys and girls in three functional aspects, which are relationship with people, communication, and interest.
So then we have the materials term that, well, we have the main author, that is one of the most important authors in this field, that is Tomilson in 2001. He gives us like the main definition, some guidelines in general terms of the construction of materials, but it is necessary, as we are working with functional educational needs people, we need like be more specific. So we have here another author, that is Hallin. He also gives some steps, some guidelines, but we need to have a close relationship with our environment, that is Colombia. So we took into consideration the guidelines proposed by the Ministry of National Education. They create a document that is called the PR, and there's post some steps to adapt the curriculum to the different educational needs of the children.
And finally, of course, we have the multiple intelligence perspective, which was created by Howard Gardner. So basically, we believe that all children, and as Gardner, because Gardner also believed that all people have intelligences, and all people have abilities. However, we have different learning styles. So, join all together, we want to find the best learning style for children with autism, and from that, we are going to adapt our classes to them.
So, well, there we have like we have like a huge literature review. There you can see the link where we have the whole reports that we consult for this part, but we're going to talk about some of them. So the first one that we have is from the autism. The left part of the screen, you can see the name of this research paper, that it was from this year. And well, the issue of this paper is that the author says that it exists like many investigations, many research about the learning styles of like typical learners, but they are aware that they saw in the report that it does not exist like too much information about the learning processes in the children with autism. So that's why they, with that study, aims to investigate the changes that the students with autism face in the daily process of learning the English vocabulary. And regarding the results, they can found that each child with autism, and even the neurotypical children, has different traits, different reactions, and different ways of learning. You cannot have always the same method for the same children because they are pretty different. And also they saw that they have different preferences, they have different ways of developing, and also they have like different motivations to different topics.
Okay, so now talking about another work that we found in previous research regarding materials and children with autism is this one that was written in Spanish, and it's from 2018. So basically, what they did in this job, it was to promote the language and communication to children with autism by games. So we are, or I mean, we use this previous research because in their results they found that each children with autism is totally different. We agree with that because, for example, in the literature we found a lot of characteristics that defines children with autism. However, those characteristics in the real life are not true. So for example, you can see that I don't know, things like children with autism don't like high sounds, children with autism don't relate with their peers, children with autism have poor communication skills, some things like that. But at the end of the day, if you go to the classroom, every children is different, and that's why they say every children with autism reacts in a different way. So we need to first see, to observe them, to make a proper diagnosis to their functional educational needs, and from there we can start to creating and adapting our materials in our class.
Well, the final report that we want to present to you is one related with the multiple intelligences theory. This is one from the 2017. As Warner proposed 8 intelligences, we wanted to suppose you this one that is focused on the musical intelligence. So here the author works with children with autism and children with neurotypical development. So this study aims to like explore how the students with autism relate and benefit from the music and dance. So during this process, the author said that she didn't like find huge differences between the engagement level between the children with autism and neurotypical children. She discovered that the music and the dance, it's very benefit for all. And also, but she highlights that the children with autism were like pretty engaged with that. She stated that she noticed like inclination for the children with autism for this activity because, well, the neurotypical children developed the activities, but they were like relaxed in some terms, but the children with autism were like truly engaged with the topic.
Okay, so now we are going to talk about data collection and data sources. So before talking about our instruments, we have, of course, two variables in this study. So the independent and the dependent. So the dependent variable are the educational characteristics of autistic children, and the independent that varies are the materials and activities. So depending of their needs, we are going to adapt the materials and activities to them. Additionally, our type of research is a descriptive cross-sectional study because we focus in just a part of time, and from those observations and from those activities we made the results.
So here we have like a chart where you can see the five instruments that we use in our research proposal. The first one are the journals. At the left of the right part, you can see the objectives. So the journals, the main aim of the journal was like to observe, to guide the different students' behaviors in order to we be aware of the reactions that they have in the school environment with their peers.
The second, and we consider this instrument one of the most important, is a psychopedagogical diagnosis. So with this diagnosis, apart from the observations, we pretend to see their levels of development in the different areas. We saw like their level in English, in maths, in biology, in arts. So in different areas, we saw their behavior, and with those results, then we adapt the activities and the materials to them.
So, well, then we have the intelligence assessment indicators. This instrument we use during the pedagogical intervention when we apply the activities because, well, these indicators will help us to recognize the predominant intelligence of each child because we state some items super theoretically and these indicators gave us like the results of the intelligence of each child and also the development regarding the behavior during the activities.
And then we have final assessment rubric. So at the end of the process, we made a final evaluation to them in order to see if they acquire the English language at the end of all the activities. So we made a final assessment, and in order to see their evolutions, we create a final assessment rubric. So this rubric gives us a better view of the process of the children.
Then we have the semi-structured interview. That was one of the first instruments that we applied. And it helped us to understand the composition of the school, the teaching staff, the pedagogical style of the school, the approaches, and so on. It also helped us to know the generalities of the behavior and the performance of each child in class. So from this instrument, we could build everything in our process.
So now we have the instructional design. So our Unit 5 analysis, like taking into account all of what we said, is of course words, phrases, and sentences, text, and task activities related with playful materials based on the steps of the peer to strengthen the multiple intelligences of each children.
So, well, talking about our setting, our proposal was carried out in a private elementary school in Bogota City, in Colombia, in the Villa Alsacia neighborhood.
Okay, and talking about our participants, we work with 2 grades, second and fourth graders. In both grades, there were 18 children in total, but the 18 children, of course, didn't have autism. So they were divided into neurotypical group and other disabilities and autism children. So in this case, of course, we are not going to work just with the children with autism, because if we are talking about inclusion, we need to include them in the class. So what we did was to work with all children, but of course we focus our adaptation in children with autism. We have 4 children. 2 of them were officially diagnosed with autism Asperger, and the other 2 were with autism.
Well, now it's time to talk about the pedagogical intervention. It is important that you know that during the whole process, we were doing our journals, our observations, because, well, when we have something planned, maybe it could change for the things that we observe. So it is important that you understand that the pedagogical intervention was divided into four stages. The first one was the application of psychopedagogical diagnosis. So it was in two sessions, with second grade and with the fourth graders, and we were there. We applied the different activities because we designed this psychopedagogical diagnosis taking as a basis the PEP 3, that is one official document to address the different levels of development that an autistic children has. So we adapt this material to our column context, to our intervention, because we divided this diagnosis into 8 intelligences, and we design different activities per intelligence. We create some indicators inside the diagnosis, and we apply the diagnosis with the whole children, and our focus population were the children with autism. So this psychopedagogical diagnosis help us to as a starting point to know the language, the social, the academic abilities and development level of the children.
Okay, so after we apply the psychopedagogical diagnosis, we talk with the teachers of the subject. So as a reminder, and I know that we have been saying this in the whole presentation, but we are working with the multiple intelligences perspective. So in order to do that, the best way to do that was to talk with the teacher of each field. So for example, if we are going to develop the mathematical activity, we are going to talk about with the math teacher. So in that way, we focus our activity with the topics that the children have been seeing in their curriculum. So of course, we didn't have the intention to be discoordinated with the school. Contrary to this, we made a joint work with all the teachers, and that is why we consider it important to talk to them before doing the activities.
Well, after we talk with the teachers, we have a weekly meeting with them. In the stage 3, we designed the class. We designed also the materials. We took into consideration all the recommendations the teachers gave us in the weekly meeting. We designed the different lesson plans and so on. We showed these lesson plans to the teachers. They approved the lesson plan before we start the intervention. And also we show the different materials that we will use in each class.
And finally, of course, we apply the materials in some micro activities. We call them like that because despite that we were in the class, the head teacher was always in there. So basically what we have done were a joint work in which they gave us the topic and we were in charge of the English acquisition part, and they were in charge of explaining some other things regarding their subject, because of course we are not experts in biology, we are not experts in mathematical. We document ourselves before the class, but the teacher was a teacher and they were in there in case that we needed something. So that's why we call them micro activities, not because it was short, it's just because we made a joint work with them.
So, here we have a schedule of our pedagogical intervention. As my partner said before, we pair each intelligence with each subject. For example, you can see logical mathematics with maths, musical with English, verbal linguistic Spanish, interpersonal ethics, naturalistic biology, bodily kinesthetic, physical education, visual spatial, social science. So we start with the first one, that it was interpersonal arts, and you can see different colors, different weeks, and we accommodate everything to apply the different activities for week. For example, the first week that it was in March, we applied the interpersonal intelligence activity with fourth and second grade. It was like only in 1 week. The next week we applied the activity with mathematics, the next week with English, and so on. So we took into consideration the Holy Week, so the children rest, the school rest, and we didn't have an intervention in that week, but it was the way how it functioned.
It is also important to highlight in this part that despite that we were working with teachers of different subjects, we always focus our intervention in the acquisition English part. So our activities, our explanations, everything was mostly in English. So despite that we were in other subjects. And that's the clarification that we wanted to say, because sometimes people get confused that, oh, you did your intervention in Spanish. No, always was in English, because that was easier to see the process of the children in the acquisition part. Evidence of our pedagogical intervention. So we made 8 activities per course. We took some pictures about it so you can see them. 8 activities because we chose 8 intelligences. So for example, here we were in the arts class, here we were in the maths and mathematical class, in the English one, and the Spanish, ethics, biology, social science, and physical education.
Well, now it's time to talk about our data analysis and interpretation. So it is important that you remind our 5 instruments. We made a detailed analysis and interpretation in our written document, but in this part we're gonna show you like the most general view of them with the most specific characteristics.
So, talking about the semi-structured interview, in this interview we were able to know the official diagnosis for each student. So, in our participant 1, he has autism. Our participant 2 has autism Asperger. Our participant 3 has autism, and our participant 4 has autism Asperger as well.
Well, regarding the journals, it was also per participant. In the first one, we can evidence that he has a great service attitude. He always was willing to complete each activity. The second participant at the beginning, she was very independent during the whole process, but at the beginning she was like too close with her school staff, but she was evolving every single time. The participant 3 he was very lonely at the beginning, but during the intervention he was like boosting his interpersonal relationships because he got support of his partners. And the last participant, she always showed like a great interest in developing the whole activities, and she has a high level of cognitive abilities.
Now, talking about the psychopedagogical diagnosis, and the diagnosis we made an analysis with some percentiles. So the percentiles were 0, 1, and 2. With the percentile 2, children made the activity by their own and they don't need help. In the percentile 1, they needed help, but they at the end could make the activity successfully. And in the percentile 0, the children didn't try to do the activity. So as one general like finding is that no children were in the percentile 0. All children, despite that they have some difficulties to make some activities, they try to do it. So we try to show them how to do it. We made some examples and then we did it. So, but no children in this study were in the percentile 0. So regarding the participant 1, in all the activities, predominated the percentile 2, and in the activities that he will like more interested on was the naturalistic, visual spatial, and interpersonal intelligence. Regarding the participant 2, his highest development was with percentile 2 was the naturalistic and musical intelligence. And with the participant 3, he needed a lot of help to develop the activities. Sometimes he just did it because we told him, you need to do this, but not by his own. So that's why we locate this participant mainly in the percentile 1. However, we could evidence that he showed some interest in the mathematicals and the musical intelligences. And finally, the four participant, she was very proactive in mostly all the activities. So she stood out in the percentile 2 with the logical, mathematical, linguistic, verbal, Spanish, English, visual, spatial, interpersonal intelligence. He had a higher development than the others.
Well, now regarding the intelligence assessment indicator, this instrument also had some percentiles 0 and 2, and what we did was to count every point that the student earned, and we made the summatory, and then we get some percentages. So we can, with the participant 1, we could see that the intelligence that he develops better is the interpersonal intelligence. The participant 2, the visual spatial intelligence. The participant 3, the musical intelligence. And the last participant, she had a tie between verbal linguistic and naturalistic intelligence. So you can see there the percentage, but it doesn't mean that they don't develop also well in another intelligence. It's just that this one is the one that predominates the most in each of them.
And now we have the results of the final assessment rubric. So the participant 1 showed a significant development in the final assessment. He showed that he could retain a lot of vocabulary about the sessions that we made with them. And he also was able to answer simple questions in English and follow directions in this language. Regarding the participant 2, she has a great memory. So she could memorize an entire song in just a second. So that was an advantage because she could also recognize them almost the whole vocabulary that we saw in the sessions, and she also made the relationships regarding with the real objects, because one thing is that the vocabulary, and one thing that you relate the vocabulary with the real thing, and that's one thing that she demonstrated she did very well. And also she was able to answer simple questions and follow directions in English. Now regarding the third participant, at the very beginning, as Laura said, this participant was very shy, and he was by his own. He didn't ask for help. He had a low tone of voice. However, in the activities we tried to integrate them with other children, and that was a positive for him because we saw an increase in the terms of sharing with their partners. So he was not more able to communicate with them. And also he was able to answer some questions by his own, but he needed help. He had a lot of help. So with this participant, we needed to focus a lot. And now talking about the fourth participant, well, she was awesome in almost all the categories because she was higher than the other. than the other student. She was able to retain and learn information in her mind. She demonstrated great skills in almost all the areas because she was in fourth grade, but she knew more than the curriculum that is proposed in fourth grade. She was like in sixth grade, so she was able to do more than was proposed. And of course, she retained a lot of vocabulary, and she also is able to answer, but not just answer, but also reply with her own words in English.
Well, now it's time to talk about our findings. So here we have the first one. It is important that you know that there is no formula for create or adaptate materials to children with autism, because you will never have like the same diagnosis for two or more children, because every single child with autism is unique, and you have like different worlds, different necessary adjustment that you have to do. So you never have the booklet, the necessary steps to create or adapt the material. But despite of this, it's necessary that you know your student before make any change, because you have to consider everything that the children has, you have to consider.
Taking into account of what Laura said, that is why we consider that for carrying out a pedagogical intervention, it is necessary to carry out a psychopedagogical diagnosis. So with the diagnosis, you will see not just like the field part, the English part, but you also will see how the student relate with their partners, their behavior. So that is pretty important, because once you notice those things, you will be able to make the necessary adjustments to the classroom, to the environment, and to the curriculum, in order to enhance the abilities and strengths of each children.
Well, it's also important that to know that each participant has like different levels of development in each intelligence. Obviously, you will have like better development in one of the eight, but it doesn't mean that you cannot develop also well in the other, because we are like integral human beings that can develop in any field, in any condition, and obviously you won't develop as the same level in everything, but you can explore in different areas, and you can have different levels of performance in each of the intelligences.
In this part, it's important to highlight that despite that maybe your intelligence is naturalistic and you are really bad in maths, but you can improve maths by doing naturalistic things, So that's also what we intended to do, to improve the areas also that the child is also like weak, but try to like potentiate them with the things that they done really good. Now the other finding is that it is necessary to make the necessary adjustments to the environment and the materials and the curriculum to enhance the student's intelligence. So it is not just enough to identify the needs of the children, but also you will need to make the necessary changes to the school, to the classroom, in order to create an environment in which the children can be like safe and can acquire the English language.
Yes, our last finding related that Laura said is, well, when you have like the safe environment where you adapt that environment, you also consider the abilities of the children, and you enhance that abilities, the children can is able to acquire the English language, because they are like in a mood of play, in a mood of stay in groups, stay like in a different mood, not like in a mandatory mood of being learning. They are just acquiring. So it is important to highlight this.
So now we are going to talk about the main conclusions of this study. So as we have been saying in the whole presentation, we consider that it is necessary the psychopedagogical diagnosis. So we focus our intervention in this. Because as I told you at the very beginning of the presentation, as children is totally different. So we cannot guide us with the characteristics that usually researchers have been doing for describing children with autism. So we cannot follow that, because maybe the children can have some of those. However, it is not something that will define the children. So that is why the psychopedagogical diagnosis will tell you like almost everything. They will tell you how the children behave, how the children behave with their partners and with teachers, with the other areas of knowledge and their strengths, of course, and abilities. So in this part, it is a necessary instrument if you want to work with this population.
Well, it's also important as a conclusion that that we understand that the application of microactivities focused on multiple intelligences will allow students to explore different fields, and it will help do the acquisition progress. Why? Because when you explore different areas, you will know which area you develop the best, and you will work on that field. You work on that area, and you will improve your English language level acquisition. So it is important that we as teachers give that opportunity to our learners to explore different areas and to know which intelligence the students develop the best, and potentiate those abilities to reach the goals of the course, and also to acquire the English level.
Well, now knowing your students and knowing their strengths will help you to make the necessary adjustments to the curriculum. We consider that this adjustment must be individually, because, well, we insist that each children is totally different. So the materials activities can be varied in one child to another. So in order that we can make the learning process successfully, it will be necessary to make individual adjustments to strengthen their particularities.
And well, the design and the application of a didactic unit that will be our final product. Will consider many things: the abilities of the children, the educational requirements of those children, the application of the didactic unit design in that way will allow the acquisition of the English language in a safe and playful environment, because the students will have the opportunity to present different activities, to solve different challenges that in specific fields. It doesn't matter that they don't have the opportunity to develop better in other fields, but they have the chance to give their best in their best area. So it is amazing to have this opportunity for them.
Okay, and finally, our action plan. This project haven't finished yet. We are working on the didactic unit, so unfortunately we cannot show you that in this moment. But once this study is completed, we will meet with the teachers and with the school coordinator, and we will share our findings, our conclusions. Of course, we're going to give them some recommendations, and finally, the most important thing is to give them the didactic unit as a recommendation in order that they can include it in the curriculum and make the necessary adjustments to the children with autism.
And then we have the references that we use for this presentation. So that's all for today. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.